If the enormous lines that I saw were any indication, people are pretty interested to see what the Kinect is like, but they are absolutely obsessed with anything Nintendo has to offer in the next few years. Everyone at the show was buzzing about the new 3DS, but of course, it probably wouldn't be an E3 without Nintendo announcing a new set of Mario, Metroid, and Zelda titles. Now, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about the Nintendo Wii because I basically hate the entire console, and being an old man, I hate the idea of motion control. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword brings new innovations to the combat system, allowing you to more accurately raise your sword and raise your shield to block incoming attacks, and get your own kind of combat style. Now, if it works, I'm sure it'll be fun for a little while, but the last feature I want to see included in the game is a lot more manic, tiring arm flailing. Now, blame it on my own severe case of franchise fatigue, but to me, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword looks exactly like The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and come to think of it, like every other Legend of Zelda game stretching back to the N64 days. Doesn't look any different, it doesn't feel any different, and doesn't seem to do anything different. Okay, this is our first major feature of the second day of E3. I'm here at Square-Enix, the area back there where we just got our first look at Deus Ex 3 Human Revolution. A very exciting demo, perhaps probably the biggest release that everyone has asked me to get footage for Deus Ex 3. Everyone's asking me for news. I'm excited too because Deus Ex is one of the greatest games, at least for the PC, ever made. Now, didn't like Deus Ex 2. Savagely flawed game, which is why I was a little skeptical about this one, but I'll tell you what, they made a believer out of me. Now, we met with the art director and the level designer for the game. Had a very real emphasis on most of the things that made the first Deus Ex great: combat, stealth, hacking, social aspects. I'm hoping to ask the designers in the interview coming up whether or not we can actually manage the character system and kind of manage their skills and specialize our characters, like in the first one, like if you can specialize in certain types of weapons or types of skill and hacking. But they really are emphasizing basically in every problem in this game, there's multiple solutions to every problem. Your hero's name is Adam Jensen. It's set in the year 2027. The game we saw was still in the pre-alpha phase, and another emphasis they were really trying to work on is the fact that you've got kind of this very realistic world that you're wandering through. People are going through the day, having very normal conversations. You can eavesdrop on pretty much every conversation, and they react realistically depending on what you do. So if you whip your piece out in front of a guy, he's going to throw his hands up and shit his pants. What really struck me about especially the trailer and the game was the fact that the cybernetics looked really cool, really innovative, and really versatile. You had so many endless options, and they basically tried to demonstrate all of the various methods of killing and stuff like that you could possibly do with these things, like especially the arms. Like, you had guys deploying like fucking miniguns out of their arms. You had a guy with like katanas in his arms. He could deploy those and like ram them through your chest. This guy had this hand that could like deploy like this huge thing, like grab your face, twist your head off, and like crush it. It was really awesome. And what was funny was they did this thing where it was some of this stuff could easily come off as being really ridiculous, things like this, but they pulled it off in a way that it actually seemed like realistic. Like, if we actually could like graft arms onto a dude and he wanted to be an assassin, this is what they would look like. I'm probably raving about this one, but I loved it.
What blew me away the most was the contextual. I tell them how he went on the roof and then he blew through.
Yeah. The takedowns. You can go through this game a number of ways. It really seems to be based in the kind of stop and pop from cover, shooting from cover and that, but stealth is a key aspect of this one. I think you are meant to play through this game stealthily because there's a lot of emphasis on contextual takedowns. You can choose to do either lethal or non-lethal takedowns, and they emphasize the fact that you can go through the entire game non-lethally without killing a single person. He didn't say without firing a shot, but we didn't really pin him down on that. The other thing I noticed, that this was the first time I'd ever seen, aside from maybe Splinter Cell Conviction, multiple takedowns at one time. You could actually drop in, knock out two guys, and there was animations for knocking out, like headlocking two guys, breaking their necks, and like twirling them around. And there was one time when he jumped through a skylight on top of a warehouse in the middle of like 5 guys, deployed like this Iron Man gun that fired out like bombs from his arms, and this big swarm around him, blew them all up and took out like all 5 guys. It was like a 5-man takedown. So what it says to me is, like, as long as you catch guys by surprise, you can take them down, because you are just like this imminently lethal fucking cyber samurai fucking assassin. And it really felt like you were like this all-powerful god of death, you know. So I think as long as they can keep that up, as long as the story is convincing and the action is good, My one main concern is, they said there's so many solutions to the problem. That was kind of the problem with Deus Ex 2, was the game was actually way too easy. So part of me wonders if you were going to find this game a little too easy. I really hope they keep the challenge level up, because I want to be challenged. Deus Ex 1 was a very challenging game with a lot of choices that still walk that fine line between giving you a lot to do, a lot of ways to solve problems, but also a very challenging, thoughtful experience you could play multiple times with multiple specializations and keep that action really moving. We're about to head into an interview with the designers, I believe, so I'm going to sign off now. Thank you. We have tons of more news from E3. I'm going to be coming back to you live.
I never asked for this. If you want to make enemies, try to change something. The year is 2027. It's a time of great innovation and technological advancement. It's also a time of chaos and conspiracy. I don't even know whose side I'm on.
Breaking news. The riots continue in the streets of Detroit. Protesters rallying outside of Seraph Industries, one of the world's leaders in the controversial science of human augmentation.
These people, Adam, they're like ghosts. Always in the shadows. Always hiding behind lies. Proxy soldiers. I need you to find them. They cannot stop us. They cannot stop the future.
I never had a choice of what happened to me.
How do you feel, Adam? The body may heal, but the mind is not always so resilient.
Corporations have more power than the government. Everyone's fighting for power, for control.
Help! Please! You to hell!
Police have opened fire on the crowd.
You'll never find them!
I'll never stop looking.
All right, everybody. This is Spoony here with Jean-François Dugas, the lead game designer with Eidos Montreal for Deus Ex 3 Human Revolution. Very exciting demo. Me and Angry Joe were blown away by what we saw down there. You made a believer out of me. What can you tell me that your main mission was with the design of Deus Ex 3? Like, what goal did you really want to accomplish with this game?
First, thank you, and secondly, we basically, when we started that, we really wanted to bring that kind of franchise to a new generation of gamers that might not know the first two ones or whatsoever. And before starting the design or whatnot, we went back to the original games and tried to understand the core values, what made them so special, and everything. And then by understanding understanding those things, it helped us a lot into creating the third one in the series. And basically what we wanted to do, like our first message was respect the core values, whatever it means at that point, but that's how we started it. So it was really important that it felt like a Deus Ex game and it played like a Deus Ex game.
Right, and it's exactly where I think the second one maybe a little bit lost track. And so I'm not sure you can answer many questions on the gameplay design of it, but the first thing I'd like to ask, just from a standpoint, is you said you were going to be basically loyal to the first game. I remember the first game having a lot of basically like customization and replay value because you could play very different agents through the various plays. You could specialize in different weapons, you could specialize in different stealth techniques like hacking or lockpicking or kind of like a brute strength type of guy. Is that similar in this type of game, or are you the kind of agent who can, just basically every option is available to you from the beginning?
I mean, there will be a lot of options available to you, but it doesn't mean that you can have them all. You need to craft your own character. Like, you play Adam Jensen, but how you want to play him is very important. It's going to drive your choices, basically. And we're balancing the game that if you want to be a jack of all trades and just like have a little bit of everything, it's going to be possible, but you won't be able to unlock all the abilities of the character and stuff like that. So for the players who are more like the specialists, like I'm the sneaky guy or I'm like the brute force, they will have to focus on certain augmentations, and now the economy is going to allow them to maximize the possibilities. So it's really important that you decide how you want to play this character, and we give you the tools to do just that.
Okay. What about ethical choices? Is there any kind of branching storylines or various managing of social relationships with other characters, maybe romantic relationships, or potential ethical choices that might put you on different sides of the conflict? Is there anything like that?
Basically, in some instances, you'll be asked to make some choices, and what we don't want it to be too like black or white in the sense, oh, if I do that, I'll get this huge bonus, and if I don't, I won't have it. Basically, we really want it to tie in more into, as a player, do you feel that is right or not? Like, it's not us that want to put a judgment on like, hey, this is right, this is wrong. It's more like, what do you think? And role play it, basically. So there will be choices and there will be some consequences later on in the game. So through the story is somewhat linear because you unravel a conspiracy layers after layers and etc. But some events how you deal with them, it's going to play out differently depending what you did previously. So yes, we're doing that.
All right. One of my main concerns with this game was you guys have had a very strong emphasis on being able to solve every problem a number of different ways. In fact, the level designer and I believe the art director were talking like, if you want to get into this warehouse, you can go through the roof, you can try to just blow your way through, you can lift a box out of the way and get to a vent, you can pick the lock, you can disable the security, climb through a window. And my main concern was that sometimes when you've got so many solutions to every problem, the game becomes way too easy because like if you get blocked one way, there's like 7 other ways to get in. So I'm not sure how to phrase the question, but what kind of difficulty are we looking at? Is the difficulty scalable, or do you think it still is going to hold a challenge despite, I mean, sometimes you got so many options that maybe you have too many.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the way we're balancing the maps is that some, like what you've seen today, like, okay, what's going on the side, took the box and things like that. If you don't have the strength augmentation, you can't do that. You're forced to go through the main gate, and now staying stealthy, it's going to be more difficult. So basically, what we're doing, we're balancing out maps with different augmentations that it's going to open or close some doors depending of the choices you made. So it's not because the maps have all those possibilities that right away they're available. So we're balancing out, like we're playing with the maps, we see what works, what doesn't work, what we should block or things like that, and we iterate until it feels right.
Sure. I was also very impressed with the art direction, in fact, extremely. I believe the art director said it was very Blade Runner meets The Matrix,
right?
In that respect. I was also kind of interested by the voice acting. Are there any big names or celebrities that we could look for in the celebrity voice acting cast for this game?
I mean, our main actor is Elias Tutfix. Basically, he has worked on other games and he works on some TV shows. But for us, what was important, it was really to get the characters right. It was not about the names or whatsoever. Sure. It was more like, okay, we see our characters are this way, what their personality is and everything. And we wanted to make sure that we had people that would come in with distinctive voices, that you would remember the characters, not only their faces but also their voice as well, because it's a huge package deal, and that was our driving motivation, as opposed like, oh, this is the name or whatsoever.
Okay. I only have really one more question: is when can we expect to see this game in stores? Because we're all very excited.
Soon in 2011.
After being wowed by Deus Ex 3, I decided to check out a few more offerings by Square-Enix. In particular, I was attracted to Lara Croft Guardian of Light. And no, before you ask, it wasn't because there were any Lara Croft-dressed booth babes. In fact, there weren't any booth babes at all. Rather a missed opportunity, if you ask me. But seriously, this one appears to be a real departure from Tomb Raider's normal style of having an over-the-shoulder platformer/puzzle game. Guardian of Light, however, appears to be an overhead action shooter, and I was immediately drawing comparisons to Dead Nations or Smash TV, but neither comparison seemed to fit quite right. There just seems to be a lot more to do in this game, a lot more creativity in the level design, the platforming, the trap dodging, and a lot more creative enemies to take out. It was really refreshing to see this brand new take on the Lara Croft franchise, because it seemed to take full advantage of the exotic locations, the mysterious temples you gotta go into, the supernatural enemies that Lara has to contend with on a daily basis. The locations seem fun, dangerous, and interesting, with lots of potential for hidden passages and collecting secret treasures. Actually, in hindsight, I'm a little surprised Lara Croft hasn't gone this way a long time before. The overhead camera perspective seems to open up all new possibilities for platforming and puzzle solving. There's also a cooperative multiplayer dynamic, because a second player can play an Aztec warrior named Olmec, who fights in a very different style with a spear and shield. Plus, he has capabilities to help Lara explore different places she wouldn't normally be able to reach on her own. This one looks like it's worth checking out, so Lara Croft Guardian of Light is scheduled for a late 2010 release on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade. Hey everyone, it's Spoony, end of day 2 at E3, and everyone's starting to filter out and we're about to head out, so I'm going to give my thoughts on everything I saw on the second day. Been a really busy day. Joe and I have been doing interviews with just about everyone we could find. He had a bunch of interviews scheduled. We spent most of the day at 2K trying to get news on their big releases, and they got a ton of them coming out. Not the least of which being Mafia, Civ 5. What was the Spec Ops? What was the game? Spec Ops Frontline?
Spec Ops The Line.
Spec Ops The Line.
XCOM.
And XCOM. And I'm going to run down the list of what I thought of each one, because
Mafia 2, Civ 5.
Right. XCOM, the first one, was the one that I was really fired up about, and Joe and I...
Don't go into that yet, okay. Because we might get into an open fist fight here.
All right, so I'll come back to XCOM. I did not actually see Spec Ops The Line, but you did an interview for that, so what did you think about Spec Ops?
Basically, I basically asked them, what makes... I got a lot of fan mail from you guys saying, what makes this game more than just a military shooter with sand? And when I asked him that, didn't really have an answer beyond that. They said story. We focus a lot more on story. That's right. I was impressed by the graphics, and they're going to have more narrative. It sort of seems to me like a Gears of War for the sand, but there's no cooperative through the campaign, and that disappointed me. You guys know how I want that. But they have a separate cooperative. I got it out of him. He didn't want to get it out. He didn't want to say it, but there is a separate cooperative campaign that's separate from the main story. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that. You probably noticed I was kind of being an old man about how I didn't like anything that wasn't original. Like I was always like, there's sequels, it's bullshit, all this stuff.
Yeah,
but
you went off on Mickey, 8-Bit Mickey.
I think you noticed though that you had a big problem with Spec Ops The Line, because you were like, this looks like just another military shooter. What's different about this? And I have a real problem with that. I was looking at Killzone, I was looking at all these shooters, and they actually all kind of blur together for me. And I guess really the only differentiating factor in a lot of these cases is the story. So you got these guys, if it's in a sci-fi setting, you got a guy with a shield and regenerating health, and so that now that was like the big innovation when Halo came out, was regenerating health, and now it's either health packs or regenerating health. So I'm really waiting for that next big evolution, and Crysis was kind of like that, but not really. Fear, actually, which I haven't seen Fear 3.
We'll try to see it tomorrow.
And Fear 3 was kind of a new take on the shooter genre, which was like survival horror shooter. And again, that goes back to XCOM, but I'm saving that for last.
Yeah, so let's talk about the ones that we agree on.
Civ 5. Civ 5, big news. That was another one on my very short list of games that I had to see, because I, unlike Joe, am a very big Civ fan, and so we kind of split on this. Like, he is an action gamer. He is not big on the turn-based strategy.
Well, I like turn-based strategy, but I just thought that Civ was boring. It's just boring, and it was a bunch of battles with stacks moving around.
That's right. And so I was really impressed with how much the game has changed and yet really stayed true to what I felt Civilization was like. A lot of evolution, and the stacks are gone. You actually have entire war fronts. You have units, 1 unit per hex. They've changed it to hexes, not squares, which I think is a choice so obvious that I can't believe they haven't done it long before. Instead of having squares, you have hexes. Maybe it was a technology limitation at the time for Civ 1 and 2 when you had no 3D cards. It was all very two-dimensional, very flat. But we were both fired up about that. And even Joe...
By the end of it, basically I told the guy, I've never played a Civ game, and I'm planning on playing Civ games. We went through the demo and the interview with Dennis, who was a producer, and I want to play a Civ game now. They put combat. They put a lot of emphasis on combat, and it looks badass. Now, it looks like an advanced Wars with all the depth that is in Civ, because I know Civ has a lot of depth, so I want to play.
Mafia 2... a game that is also...
Yeah, that guy was not having it. I mean, I tried to...
Did he not like you, man?
No, he was pissed at me. He looked like he wanted to punch me.
I don't know, man. Maybe it was like you were hanging out there all day and you were like getting on the nerves. I don't know, man. But
get the fuck out
he was like, he had this beer. He had this beer, and he was like, your first question was like, "Will this game suck?" And he was like,
No, I didn't. That wasn't my first question. My first
what
question, I went in there. I was like, "Hey, yo, Tony. Hey, can I call you Tony?"
And he's like,
"No, my name is whatever." And I was like, "All right, Tony." So that probably pissed him off.
He kind of, yeah. I don't know. He wasn't having.
I just speak my mind. I just gotta say what.
Mafia 2 looked okay, and what was funny to me was he basically outright admitted that Mafia 1 sucked.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah, because he was like, when you were talking like what's new, he's like, yeah, the cops won't shoot you for speeding anymore.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And so he's like, he was talking about all these features from Mafia 1 that are different now, but he was basically burying Mafia 1, which actually kind of refreshing. I actually wish more producers would kind of say let's say there was
Two Girls, the Two Worlds 2 chick.
Yeah,
she was really cool.
Actually, you caught her there in a moment of weakness, though, man. She would not
beating up on a girl who's already down.
You kind of beat her up because you were like,
hey, I do it for you guys. I beat up on girls for you guys.
Because she said, "Will this suck?" And she's like, "No, of course not. It won't suck." And then so she starts playing the game, and then you were like, "Now," she's like, "This feature is much better than in the first one, which wasn't very good." And she's like, "Oh shit!" But yeah, that was kind of funny. But lastly, XCOM.
We're gonna do this.
We're gonna do this.
We agree on Deus Ex. We agree on Civ 5. We agree on what else?
Shogun.
Shogun. We agree. But on XCOM, go ahead. I want to hear. No, I want to hear you.
All right. I was actually kind of optimistic about this one.
And
Joe, very down on this because
I was ready to beat some ass.
He was like, he had this plan from the beginning when he was talking to me about this. He was like, I'm gonna deck a motherfucker at 2K because they changed this from the strategy game that I loved.
But don't give away what happened.
And so like we saw the demo. They actually had this 2K. When they did the demos, I gotta tell you, they went all out for the demos. They designed separate rooms for each demo with set dressings. And I didn't get this.
I got footage.
You got footage on that because I got the Civ. I got the Civ one.
Yeah.
They actually dressed it like a 1950s kitchen.
Yeah. And the guy was there playing it real time.
Yeah.
And
so I saw the footage, and there was one word searing through my mind like bolts of fire, and that word: betrayal.
What?
Betrayal. Betrayed me. This game sucks. It has nothing to do with XCOM. Nothing.
I think this is the birth of Angry Spoony.
Nothing to do with XCOM. Like the first thing they did, they were like, "Okay, here's XCOM, it's got aliens, and it's so XCOM, and just like XCOM is set in the 1950s," and I'm like, "XCOM is not set in the 1950s. It's not. Like, what are you doing to me? Are you trying to do some kind of Fallout shit with this XCOM thing? No. What you do in this game is you play a G-man in the 1950s, investigating these paranormal phenomena. He keeps trying. This guy keeps trying to bring it back to how this is like XCOM, and it's not. He's like, you can wander around the base just like in XCOM. You can research new things just like in XCOM. And I'm like, but you're not doing anything. You know what the research is?
Wrong. You're completely wrong. But finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
You know what the research is in XCOM?
I'm gonna go toe to toe with you.
Instead of collecting things and studying them, you take fucking pictures. You know what it is? It's like it's basically a facelift to BioShock because the entire thing from beginning to end looks like BioShock.
No.
The graphics are subpar, just like BioShock's were subpar.
No, they weren't.
They were not. It wasn't even an evolution from BioShock 1. They were cartoony. They were unrealistic.
It was stylistic. The game oozed style.
You say stylistic. I say cartoony bullshit. Okay. I found the 1950s setting to be artificial and unwelcome and completely like anything XCOM ever did.
I will agree that it's disappointing that we're not going to see all that sci-fi weaponry, but we will. There was the lightning gun, there was the goo grenade. We get a new take on it. It's a fresh new take. And look, nobody was more pissed off about XCOM not being a strategy game than I was, okay? And I went in there, I was ready to beat some ass. But you know what? The demo was actually pretty good. They basically showed off, you went into the XCOM headquarters, their base, and everybody is chatting. People are on the phones trying to find your next mission. There's this big board up of the United States with 3 different shit happening, like in the UFOs, like in the original game, where you could choose, to fight the aliens. So we picked one. It was of a lady screaming her head off. What the hell is this? And so we said, let's go to that one. But they said, you know what? You're not going to earn any money or Illyrium from this. You're just going, Illyrium or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're just going to go and save a life. And I said, hell yeah, let's go save a life. So we went out there and we got there and it's suburbia. It's empty. It's creepy. Where are all the people? We hear screaming from a backyard. The guy runs into the backyard. There's a dead dog. Made me want to cry. And then there's like all this goo everywhere. And I thought the goo enemies were fucking retarded. All right. But then when I actually saw them in person, they move different. They look completely different from the screenshots. The screenshots don't do them justice, okay? And then the Titan appears and it like vaporizes everything. The 2 enemy, and that's not all the aliens that are in this game. I thought that all the elements of XCOM are still there. You have choosing which missions you want to go on. That was in the original. You have taking research points. Yes, you take pictures, but it's like a detective. You don't like being
like BioShock. You took fucking pictures.
And did it give you research points that you go to the guy who builds you these new technologies? That's how we got the lightning gun.
Yeah, but unlike XCOM, you have no input on where research goes. You're just taking pictures. Yeah. So, like, you take a picture of the goo, you research the goo. You don't have any input on this. You don't, from what I saw, you don't seem to have any appreciable impact on base location, base management, base control, what you want to add.
That they're not showing that part. I can guarantee. I'm fairly certain that there is going to be base building or something with the base. They didn't want to give it up. I think that the aliens are going to eventually invade the base. That's what I wanted to see. If XCOM doesn't have this, I'll be as pissed off as him. The aliens need to invade the base.
It's not going to have it.
Yes, it will.
I know there will be more aliens in here, but it would have been good to promote the fucking game if we had seen some familiar alien from the series.
They can't show everything off.
But come on,
Spoony.
one of them. The
sectoid.
2 aliens. The sectoid, the snake man, the chrysalid, the fucking the guys in the robes, the orange fucking robes, those guys who turn you into zombies, the lobster men. Give me something. Give me a fucking blaster bomb. Are we gonna be able to fire a fucking blaster bomb in this game? I don't fucking think so.
It is XCOM from a new perspective.
Bullshit perspective.
I thought it was win. There was a lot of atmosphere there. It felt creepy when this thing appeared in the sky. You didn't know what it was, so you took a picture so that you could give it to your scientist. Because I'm not a scientist. I don't know what the fuck is going on. It blasted one of my 2 agents that I brought with me. We'll be able to rename the agents, so I'll rename one Spoony, and I'll make sure that he dies every time I go out.
The fucking agents.
I guarantee you can rename the agents.
Oh,
he looked at me like you can rename the agents.
You changed the name of the agents. That is comforting. After being able
don't be like that.
Being able to fully control your fucking team in XCOM, being able to tailor make your soldiers.
Those agents may be co-op. You don't know that. They could
to specially load out each agent's tools and armor to specifically suit your gameplay style.
Right now, if those agents are co-op and you can bring in, like, I can play one guy, you can play that other guy, would that be cool?
It would be cool, but he didn't mention that. He didn't even say that. He would just say, I can't comment on that, which means no.
Not necessarily. As you can clearly see, we both are at odds over XCOM, so we want to hear from you and take over. Let me hear your last thoughts on it.
You don't have any control over your teammates. You just have 2 dumb shit AI companions who constantly run in the way of your fire, who constantly get in the way as you throw fucking grenades, get themselves fucking killed. All they were doing, all this game is another survival horror shooter, which was done to much much better effect in Fear. This looks like a Clown Shoes knockoff of the very same type of Fear game, and I am officially calling Betrayal on 2K for XCOM.
So
this game sucks.
He went in optimistic, and now he was as pissed off as I was when I went in. So we have clearly differing opinions.
Would it have killed them? Would it have killed them to make just a really good version of XCOM? Hell, you could have just remade XCOM with a better graphics engine, and that would have been light years away than this.
You know what?
You would.
We're gonna duke this out right here.
Duke this out. I'm Spoony. Tune in next time if I live. Victory!